The lunch rush was in full swing at one of the city's busiest corporate offices. Employees laughed and chatted as they waited for their meals, barely acknowledging the man who had just walked in, Marcus, the delivery driver. Dressed in his uniform, carrying bags of food, he did what he always did: showed up on time, did his job with care, and treated everyone with respect. But respect was the last thing he got in return. As he made his way through the office, whispers turned to laughter. A group of young executives leaned against their desks, smirking. One of them, a tall man in an expensive suit, nudged his friend and said just loud enough for Marcus to hear, "Look at him, probably the closest he'll ever get to a real office job." The others chuckled. Another one added, "Hey, maybe if you work hard enough, you can bring my coffee tomorrow too." More laughter. Marcus felt the heat rise in his chest, but he stayed calm. This wasn't the first time he'd been treated this way. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that today was different. Today, Marcus wasn't just the delivery guy. Today, he was about to make an announcement that would leave every single one of them speechless. Marcus took a slow breath, steadying himself. He had spent years dealing with people like this, those who saw a uniform and assumed they knew his story, but they had no idea. He scanned the room, his eyes settling on a familiar face near the back. Mr. Reynolds, the company's founder, sat at his desk, watching the scene unfold. Unlike the others, he wasn't laughing. Marcus placed the food on the counter and cleared his throat. "Actually," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I'm not here just to deliver your lunch." The room quieted slightly, a few employees exchanging confused glances. The man in the expensive suit chuckled. "Oh, you got a promotion. Head of deliveries now," he teased, earning a few more snickers. Marcus didn't respond right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek key card. He held it up just enough for everyone to see. A few people frowned, recognizing it instantly. Only senior executives had access to those. The laughter faded. A nervous hush spread through the office. Mr. Reynolds leaned back in his chair, a small, knowing smile on his face. Marcus glanced around at the people who had just mocked him. "Let's just say," he continued, "some of you are going to regret what you just said." The office was dead silent now. The smirks were gone, replaced by confused, uneasy stares. Marcus could see it in their eyes. They were trying to make sense of what was happening. The man in the suit, Jason, straightened up, his confidence flickering for the first time. "What are you talking about?" he asked, forcing a laugh. Marcus stepped forward, his keycard still visible in his hand. "You really don't recognize me, do you?" he said, his voice steady. Jason squinted, as if seeing Marcus for the first time. A few others looked closer too, some shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. Mr. Reynolds finally spoke, his voice cutting through the tension. "Perhaps I should explain," he said, pushing back from his desk. "Marcus here isn't just a delivery driver. In fact, he's been in and out of this office more times than you realize." Whispers spread across the room. Some employees exchanged nervous looks, while others sat frozen, their faces pale. Jason scoffed, shaking his head. "This is a joke, right?" he said. "You're telling me he works here." Marcus met his eyes. "Not just works here," he corrected. "I own part of this company." The weight of those words hit the room like a shockwave. Some gasped. Others sat in stunned silence. Jason's confidence cracked, his smirk fading completely. "That's not possible," he muttered. "Oh, it is," Marcus said, his expression unreadable. "And after today, a few things around here are about to change." The tension in the room was thick. No one moved. No one spoke. The employees who had laughed moments ago now shifted awkwardly in their seats, their faces tight with unease. Jason's confidence had turned into disbelief, his hands gripping the edge of his desk as if trying to steady himself. "There's no way," he muttered, shaking his head. "You're lying." Marcus didn't flinch. He simply reached into his pocket again, this time pulling out a folded document. Calmly, he placed it on the counter beside the delivery bags. The company's logo was stamped at the top, followed by bold black letters. Asterisk asterisk Marcus Bennett, co-owner and board member asterisk asterisk. Jason snatched it up, his eyes scanning the words in panic. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Around him, others leaned in to see for themselves, their expressions shifting from shock to dread. Some had mocked him. Others had ignored him. And now they realized he held more power in this room than any of them ever had. Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. Marcus has been a silent investor in this company for years. I brought him in because he understands hard work better than anyone in this room. He let that sink in before adding, and today he's making some necessary changes. Marcus took a slow step forward, his voice steady. That's right, he said, because after today, some of you won't be working here anymore. A wave of unease swept through the office. Jason's face turned pale. The ones who had laughed the loudest now looked the most afraid. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and they knew it. But they had no idea just how much worse it was about to get. The silence in the room was almost unbearable. Jason clenched his jaw, his hands balling into fists as he scanned the faces around him. His co-workers, his so-called friends, weren't laughing anymore. They weren't even looking at him. Their eyes were locked on Marcus, the man they had just mocked, now standing in control of everything they thought was theirs. But before Jason could say anything, Marcus spoke again. Actually, he said, pausing just long enough for the weight of his words to settle, there's something else you should know. A ripple of tension spread through the room. Some employees exchanged uneasy glances, while others sat frozen. Jason exhaled sharply, forcing out a bitter chuckle. Oh, let me guess, he sneered. You're firing me, right? Getting rid of the guy who made a harmless joke. Marcus tilted his head slightly, studying him. No, he said, his voice calm. Not yet. Jason blinked. What? Marcus reached into his pocket again, this time pulling out his phone. With a few quick taps, he turned the screen around for everyone to see. A video began to play. Jason's face drained of color. It was security footage from the office. The audio was crystal clear. His own voice echoed through the room, making the same arrogant, mocking remarks he had just made to Marcus. But that wasn't all. The video kept going, capturing more conversations, more smug comments, more moments where Jason belittled not just Marcus, but other employees too. The entire office watched in stunned silence. Some gasped. Others glanced at Jason, their faces unreadable. Marcus let the video play for a few more seconds before lowering the phone. His expression remained steady, but there was no mistaking the authority in his voice when he spoke. This isn't just about me, he said. This is about a culture that's been allowed to thrive here for too long, and I'm here to put an end to it. Jason's lips parted as if to argue, but no words came out. He looked around the room for support, but no one came to his defense. Even the ones who had laughed with him earlier now looked away, distancing themselves as if they had never been part of it. And then, before anyone could process what was happening, Marcus turned toward Mr. Reynolds, who had been watching everything with quiet approval. I think it's time we make an example, Marcus said, his voice low but firm. The room seemed to shrink as everyone held their breath. Jason swallowed hard. His arrogance was gone. His power was gone. And for the first time, he realized this wasn't just about losing a job. It was about losing everything. The office felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. Jason's face had lost all color, his usual smug confidence replaced with pure panic. He turned to Mr. Reynolds, desperate. Sir, this isn't fair. You can't seriously be listening to him. It was just a joke. Mr. Reynolds let out a slow breath, shaking his head. A joke, he repeated. Jason, do you have any idea how many complaints I've received about your behavior? Jason opened his mouth to protest, but Mr. Reynolds wasn't finished. You didn't just humiliate Marcus. You made people feel small every single day. And until now, no one had the power to hold you accountable. He gestured toward Marcus. But things are different now. The weight of those words sank deep into the room. Jason looked around, but the faces that once cheered him on now refused to meet his eyes. He was alone, completely and utterly alone. Marcus stepped forward, his voice steady. "Effective immediately, you're no longer employed here." Jason froze. "No, wait. You can't do this," he stammered, his voice shaking. "I built my career here. You can't just take that away." But Marcus simply raised an eyebrow. "That's funny," he said, "because earlier today, you thought it was okay to tear *me* down based on nothing but my uniform. Maybe now you understand what it feels like." Jason's shoulders sagged, the reality finally crashing over him. Security had already been called. Within minutes, 2 guards appeared, waiting for him to collect his things. The office was silent as he shuffled toward his desk, grabbing a few items with shaking hands. No one spoke, no one defended him.